Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping into this really interesting idea called the yes brain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good concept from Daniel Siegel and Payne Bryson's work.
Right, and we're looking at how it helps us build things like, well, courage, curiosity, resilience, which is huge.
Exactly. We've been digging into excerpts from their book, The Yes Brain,
Yeah.
trying to pull out the core ideas.
So our mission here really is to understand what makes up a yes brain and, how that can actually help us all in our own lives with learning and growing.
And it connects to this fascinating point they make about the upstairs brain,
Yeah.
the part that handles reason, planning, emotional control.
Yeah.
It apparently keeps developing right into our mid-20s.
Wow. Okay. So there's always potential for growth there. All right. Let's get into it then. What's the main difference, the sort of contrast between a yes brain and a no brain?
Well, fundamentally, the yes brain is about being open,
Yeah.
flexible, curious, able to bounce back.
Mm.
Someone with that mindset is more willing to try new things, maybe see mistakes not as failures, but as, learning chances.
Right.
And it helps in connecting with people, understanding yourself, developing that inner compass. It's about challenging the whole brain, really.
An internal compass. I like that. So it's less about external pressures.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
It prioritizes your inner world. The no brain, on the other hand, that's more reactive.
Reactive how? Like fearful.
Yeah, fearful, maybe rigid, kind of shut down,
Mm-hmm.
very worried about making mistakes.
Hmm.
So someone in a no-brain state might focus a lot on external achievements, pleasing others, sticking to the rules very tightly.
And they might even look successful doing that.
Oh, absolutely. You can achieve a lot by just following the script, but the potential downside is, well, you might lose some of that natural curiosity, that joy in just exploring and trying things out.
Gotcha. So it's like internal growth versus just external validation. Okay, the book breaks the yes brain down into four fundamentals. Let's start with the first one, balance.
Right. Balance.
Uh-huh.
And it's not about being perfectly calm 24/7, which, let's face it, is impossible.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of a learned skill. Developing emotional stability, being able to regulate how you're feeling inside.
Okay, so how do they describe that? I think they mentioned zones.
Yeah, the green zone, that's the sweet spot, feeling calm, connected, in control, present.
And the others. Red and blue.
Exactly. The red zone is when you're like revved up, agitated, maybe overwhelmed, feeling chaotic. Your system's on high alert.
Okay.
And the blue zone is the opposite, shut down, withdrawn, maybe feeling numb or rigid,
Okay.
kind of collapsing inward.
So the goal isn't to never be in red or blue.
No, not at all. It's more about recognizing, okay, I'm in the red zone, or uh-oh, feeling blue, and then having the tools to gently guide yourself back towards that green zone.
How do we do that? What's this integration sweet spot they talk about?
Yeah, integration involves two things, differentiation and linkage.
Okay.
Differentiation is about honoring your uniqueness, your own feelings, thoughts, body sensations.
Yeah.
Recognizing yourself as distinct.
Mm-hmm.
And linkage is about connecting, relating to others, feeling part of something bigger. Balance comes from weaving those two together. Not losing yourself, but also not being totally isolated.
That makes sense. Finding that sweet spot between me and we. And they offer practical strategies for this, right? Starting with sleep.
Yes. Balance strategy. #1. Maximize the ZZs. Sounds basic, but it's incredibly powerful.
I bet. Lack of sleep throws everything off.
Completely. Good sleep is foundational for emotional regulation.
Right.
It just makes you better equipped to handle, well, anything and stay closer to that green zone.
Makes total sense. And strategy number 2, something about a platter.
Serve a healthy mind platter. It's a great metaphor.
What's on the menu?
It's about consciously feeding your mind different nutrients throughout the day. Things like focus time, yes, but also playtime, downtime,
Okay.
physical time or movement, connection time with others, sleep time, again, and importantly, time in that quiet reflection, noticing your inner world.
So consciously balancing those different mental activities.
Exactly. It's about intentionality in how you spend your mental energy to support overall balance.
All right, moving on to the second fundamental, resilience. How do they define that?
They talk about resilience as this state of having sort of inner resources, enough strength and clarity to navigate challenges effectively.
So it's not about avoiding difficulties.
No, definitely not. It's about how you respond when things get tough, how you recover, how you keep moving forward.
And what's the goal when building resilience? Is it just getting back to normal?
Well, there are two goals, really. Short term, yes, it's about getting back to that green zone, finding your balance after being knocked off course.
Okay.
But the long-term goal is actually expanding that green zone.
Expanding it. How?
meaning you become able to handle a wider range of stress or difficulty without getting completely thrown into the red or blue zones. You become more adaptable, fundamentally stronger.
That's a powerful idea. They also say something interesting. Behavior is communication. What's that about?
Ah, this is key for resilience. Instead of just seeing, say, a child's tantrum or someone's withdrawal as just bad behavior,
Mm-hmm.
you ask, what's the message here? What underlying feeling or need is being expressed, maybe clumsily?
So looking deeper than the surface action.
Exactly. Is it fear? Frustration? A need for connection? Loneliness? By understanding the why behind the behavior, you can address the actual need and help build better coping skills. That builds resilience.
That requires a real shift in perspective. And they also mention needing both push-in and cushion.
Yes, I
Yeah.
love that phrasing. Sometimes growth requires a gentle nudge, the push-in,
Mm.
encouraging someone or yourself to face a challenge, step outside the comfort zone.
Mhm.
But other times, especially when someone's really struggling or hurt,
Mm.
what's needed is comfort, safety, understanding the cushion.
And the trick is knowing which is needed when.
Precisely. That skillful balance fosters resilience.
Okay, so what are the strategies here? They mentioned 4 S's.
Right. Resilience strategy, #1. Shower your kids or yourself really with the 4 S's. That's safe, seen, soothed, and secure.
Okay, break this down quickly.
Safe feeling physically and emotionally protected. Seen feeling truly understood and valued for who you are. Soothed having comfort and support when distressed. And secure feeling a reliable sense of connection and attachment.
That sounds like the foundation for everything almost.
It really is. It creates that secure base needed to face the world. And the second strategy,
Blindsight.
teach mindsight skills. Mindsight is basically self-awareness plus empathy. Understanding your own mind
Hmm.
and having insight into the minds of others. A big part of this is learning to shift perspective.
How does that help resilience?
It stops you from feeling like just a victim of your feelings or circumstances. You develop this ability to kind of observe your own experience, like, okay, I'm feeling angry without being totally consumed by it. Gives you agency.
Got it. Okay, third fundamental, insight. How does this differ from mindsight?
Insight is focused more internally. It's that deep understanding of yourself, your thoughts, feelings, patterns, motivations, knowing yourself from the inside.
So self-awareness is key here.
Absolutely. It leads to better decisions, more self-control. It's about being aware of what's driving you.
And they use this phrase, the observer and the observed. What does that mean practically?
It sounds a bit abstract, but it's really useful. It's cultivating that part of you that can step back and simply witness your own experience.
Like watching yourself.
Sort of, yeah. You're having the feeling that's the observed, but there's also a part of you that can notice you're having the feeling that's the observer.
And creating that space. That helps.
Hugely. That space is the power of the pause.
The pause.
Taking that brief moment before you react, especially when triggered. It breaks the autopilot reaction and lets you choose a response.
That sounds difficult but valuable. What are the strategies for building insight?
One is reframe pain by asking, which struggle do you prefer?
Interesting question. What's the point of that?
It shifts your view of hardship. Instead of just seeing it as something awful to avoid, it implies there might be different kinds of struggles, and perhaps one path of difficulty is actually more aligned with your growth or values than another. It gives a sense of choice.
Choosing your struggle. Okay, I can see how that builds agency. And the second, insight strategy.
Avoid the red volcano eruption. This goes back to the pause.
Yeah.
It's about learning to recognize those internal warning signs, heat rising, tension building, and consciously inserting that pause before you explode. Practicing responding thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively in anger or frustration.
Definitely a skill worth cultivating. Okay, final fundamental, empathy.
Empathy. So this is about understanding that we're all individuals, each a me with our own inner world,
Right.
but we're also part of an interconnected we.
Wow.
Recognizing that shared humanity.
And they emphasize it's a learned skill. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like balance or insight, empathy isn't fixed. We grow stronger through our interactions, our relationships, how we pay attention.
So what does it involve according to this model?
Two main things, really. First, the cognitive part.
Yeah.
Trying to understand someone else's perspective, see things from their point of view.
Okay.
And second, the affective or emotional part. Feeling some resonance with their experience, caring about their well-being, and potentially being motivated to help or support them. Understanding plus compassion.
Makes sense. How do we actively develop it? Strategy 1.
Fine-tune the empathy radar. This means really paying attention to others, noticing facial expressions, tone of voice, body language, tuning into those social cues.
Activating our social engagement system, as they put it.
Exactly. They even talk about wanting to snag a child's brain for empathy, stimulate neuronal activation and growth, showing how vital it is to nurture this.
And the empathy diamond, what's that?
It's just a way to visualize the different parts of empathy working together, like perspective taking, feeling with someone, affect sharing, and actually wanting to help. Pro-social concern. It
Mm.
breaks it down.
Okay. And another strategy follows from that.
Yeah, establish a language of empathy. Basically giving ourselves and others the actual words to express care, understanding, and validation. Naming feelings, acknowledging struggles.
Having the vocabulary is crucial. And the last empathy strategy.
Expand the circle of concern. This is about pushing ourselves to feel empathy, not just for people like us or people we know,
Mm-hmm.
but for a wider range of
Sure.
people, even those who seem very different. Recognizing our connection to the larger human family, and maybe even beyond.
Wow. Okay. So wrapping this up then, we've covered the four fundamentals of the yes brain: balance, resilience, insight, and empathy.
Yeah, and it's clear how interconnected they are. Balance helps resilience. Insight fuels empathy.
Yeah.
Empathy can bring you back to balance.
Yeah.
They all support each other.
Right. And cultivating them isn't just about coping, is it? It seems more like building a whole way of approaching life.
Absolutely. It fosters a mindset that's more flexible, more curious, more able to learn from experience, connect deeply, and navigate the world with, well, with more grace and effectiveness. It helps you show up more fully.
This has been incredibly insightful, a really useful framework. So for everyone listening, here's something to maybe chew on.
Mm-hmm.
As you think about these four fundamentals: balance, resilience, insight, empathy, which one resonates most strongly with you right now? Where might you be facing a challenge, or where do you see an opportunity for growth? And maybe consider, how could applying just one strategy we talked about today open up a new way of seeing things or lead to a small shift in your own journey?